Greetings, folks, for Ag and Natural Resources Marketing. I'm David Ammon, and you're watching Renew, the show about the amazing students, faculty, and staff of the College of Forest Resources here at Mississippi State University. Our first guest today is Dr. Eric Mitchell. Dr. Mitchell is an ungulate ecologist specializing in white-tailed deer ecology and management. He's also an assistant professor in the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Aquaculture and coordinator of the Taylor Chair in Applied Big Game Research and Instruction. He also co-directs the Deer Lab. Dr. Mitchell, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Dr. Mitchell, could you tell the audience about your role at the MSU Deer Lab and what sparked your interest in deer ecology and management?
Yeah, my interest in deer ecology and management began when I was a sophomore in high school. Well, before that, I grew up in southwestern Wisconsin where
Nice.
Deer hunting is a really big part of the culture there. I always really liked biology. And once I realized that there was this thing called wildlife biology, I thought, here we go, and I never looked back.
Yeah, nice. The MSU Deer Lab, it explores everything from antler growth to population dynamics. Could you highlight one current research project you're excited about and why it matters for landowners, hunters, or wildlife managers?
We just brought on a student to use a new DNA analysis to assess diet composition for white-tailed deer across the state of Mississippi.
Very cool.
It's going to be really interesting. We're looking at some pretty cool stuff. We're collecting samples throughout the entire year, which is going to allow us to better understand what deer are eating and how that diet changes across time, and really how that's supporting energetically demanding time periods like antler growth, reproduction, gestation, lactation for females. It's going to be important for managers because we're also going to have a better understanding of how they're using agricultural crops in their diet. Baiting is a really big topic right now in Mississippi, so we're hoping to get at how what percentage of the diet, bait, like corn, supplemental feed, things like that, what that comprises of a deer's diet. So it's going to be some pretty useful information once we have it.
Very cool, very cool. Your lab's work on antler growth, nutrition, genetics, and age estimation is widely recognized. For a land manager trying to build quality deer, what are the top 3 levers they should focus on, and what are the common pitfalls?
Yeah, we talk about this a lot. The number one lever, in my opinion, is age. A lot of people are harvesting animals that just aren't mature, and that's important because they're not going to express their full antler potential and body size until they hit that maturity. The second is nutrition. We know that we can impact the landscape. We can induce habitat management to improve the nutrition and the quantity and quality of nutrition available. And people sometimes just aren't doing that because it can be overwhelming when you start looking at it as a whole. The last factor there is genetics. But unfortunately, we just really can't manipulate genetics in a free-range population. It kind of is what it is. But by impacting age of harvest and holding off harvesting animals until they're fully mature and utilizing habitat management so we have a high quantity and a high quality of forage that's available, we can affect the phenotype, which is the expression of genetics for those animals.
Gotcha, that's fascinating. With growing interest in wildlife disease, chronic wasting disease, for example, and changing landscapes, how is the MSU Deer Lab adapting its research to emerging threats and habitat shifts? With local stakeholders, what should they be aware of?
Yeah, we have some ongoing chronic wasting disease research right now. One of the things that is a really big impact on state agencies in terms of chronic wasting disease is just monitoring for the disease. And right now the best way we have to monitor for the disease is sampling lymph nodes from harvested animals. It's pretty time intensive. It takes a lot of involvement from landowners, as you can imagine. So in the recent past, former members of the Deer Lab started to develop this environmental sampling where we can go to scrape sites, which are communication sites that white-tailed deer use. They're depositing urine, feces, all the things that contain a CWD prion in it. And we can send those soil samples off for analysis for detection of the disease. So we're continuing on that work here currently. We're wrapping up one project and we're about to start another.
Nice, nice. With GPS collars, remote sensing, big data analytics, the field is evolving rapidly. What technology or method shown in your lab do you believe will make the biggest difference in deer ecology over the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, this is a great question. GPS technology on collars is just giving us so much information on how deer are moving, how they're interacting with each other, how they're using the landscape, what resources they're choosing, all these different things. I think that technology, we're going to continue to use that to advance the field, but we're also very interested in how other things like the thermal nature of the habitat and the cover also impacts things like how their scent's being carried, how that might impact survivorship and things like that, which we can use in combination with those GPS collars.
Gotcha. Going back to antler growth and nutrition, is there a a time of year where you see more antler growth based on, the diet that, that time of year provides?
So bucks are going to start growing their antlers in the spring, and they'll continue out throughout the summer. And antlers are a pretty unique tissue, and that's the fastest growing tissue known to humankind, right?
Wow.
It's actually being used in some cancer research because those cells just grow so rapidly. So we're talking up to an inch or two maximum growth per day of antlers during the peak antler growth. So basically, really May, June is when it's going to start. Through September, they'll have their hardened antlers and start shedding velvet off at that point in time.
Wow, that's fascinating stuff. Dr. Mitchell, the research side of the Deer Lab sounds awesome. Y'all doing some really awesome work. And we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have our next guest, Dr. Jacob Dykes. Don't go anywhere.
Want a career as big as the outdoors? Want to have an impact on the environment? The College of Forest Resources at Mississippi State University delivers hands-on training, ensuring clean air and water, wildlife habitats, and a sustainable environment. Creating new wood products and retooling old ones for today and tomorrow. Find a career in whatever path you choose. Majors in forestry, natural resource and environmental conservation, sustainable bioproducts, wildlife, fisheries, and aquaculture. Want a career as big as the outdoors? Choose the College of Forest Resources at Mississippi State University.
Welcome back. Our next guest is Dr. Jacob Dykes. Dr. Dykes is an assistant professor in the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Aquaculture, as well as an extension wildlife specialist. He co-directs the Deer Lab with Dr. Mitchell and is the coordinator of the St. John Family Endowed Program. Dr. Dykes, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm thrilled to be here.
Awesome. Dr. Dykes, could you tell the audience about your role at the Deer Lab and what sparked your interest in deer ecology and management?
I grew up like a lot of people, hunting, being outside. That was kind of my motivation to get my homework done is let's get outside. And I learned at a really young age that my interest in deer and wildlife in particular was just a little bit more, a little deeper than others, I guess you'd say.
Right. Nice. How do you help connect the public to the science happening on campus and in the field?
Well, that's one thing that's really neat about the MSU Deer Lab. We do just as much outreach as we do research. So we are steadily working with landowners and land managers and just the general public to understand what they need from us. Right. And so we do that in every avenue, from in-person events to social media to YouTube to in newspaper articles, whatever we can do to reach people and interact with landowners.
Do you find a certain aspect of that to be more effective than others?
At this point, no, not really. That's why we kind of throw the kitchen sink at it, do a little bit of everything. We've got certain people that want to be in person. They want to have that relationship with the Deer Lab, and we appreciate that as well. And then we've got the younger folks that maybe they want to be on social media and Facebook and Instagram, that kind of thing.
Sure. What questions or concerns do you hear most often about deer, and how does your outreach address them?
Well, that'd be a long episode there. We get a lot of questions. A lot of people are getting more and more involved and interested in habitat management.
Right.
How can I manage my timber? How can I manage my deer herds to grow healthier and larger deer? And so that's really what we're all about is helping people accomplish those things. So a lot of habitat management, a lot of herd management, that kind of thing. Sure.
When people come to you for advice about food plots or habitat improvement, what are the most common mistakes you see, and how do you help them course correct?
Mistakes, I don't know if I'd call it a mistake, but oftentimes we deal with a lot of the same situations. So for example, closed canopy forest. They don't allow sunlight to get to the ground, therefore you can't grow deer food and cover. That's a common issue. Or, one of the biggest, if not the biggest, I guess, would be managing deer density. You have to keep those populations down to a level so they can benefit from the habitat and not degrade the habitat. So.
Right. What are some success stories you've seen a landowner, hunting club, or classroom change their practices because of Deer Lab outreach?
Well, one thing we do with the Deer Lab and with Extension especially is we interact with people. So when we do these educational events, we like to hear back from them. You know, did you learn anything? Are you going to implement anything? And throughout those surveys and just in general, people contact us constantly saying, hey, you know, we've been doing what you've been preaching, and it's working. We're seeing more deer. We're seeing healthier deer. We're growing deer food, deer cover, that kind of thing. So it's been really rewarding in that respect.
Well, that's awesome. Got any fun plans for the holidays?
Me and my wife and my 1-year-old are going to jump into a car and drive 9 hours to Houston to see the family,
Nice.
and we'll see how that goes with the 1-year-old.
Nice. 9 hours in the car with a 1-year-old.
Yeah, it'll be fun though. It'll be
That's
fun.
an adventure. Well, Dr. Dykes, thanks you for joining us. Hope you guys have a great holiday. And thank you guys for tuning in to this episode of Renew. If you'd like to watch previous episodes, you can find us online at cfr.msstate.edu. There you'll find the rest of our socials. Or you can check us out at CFR Vids on YouTube. Thanks so much and have a great holiday.